Most indie games barely get any attention or don't make a lot of money. So is game development worth it as a career? My honest answer, yes. But after 8 years as an indie developer, I've learned that it's only worth it if you have these 3 things that I'm going to tell you about in this video. Hi friend, Gal here. For those who don't know me, I am a solo indie game developer and I am currently working on my dream survival horror game, which is called Silent Corruption. I spent the last 3 years or so obsessively researching what makes indie games successful. Right now, I'm deep in the trenches building the demo for my game, and in this channel I share my journey, all the lessons learned, the tips and tools, and all the stuff that I wish somebody told me when I started game dev. So you can also make progress on your game. So if you're making a game too, or you're thinking about getting into game dev, you're in the right place. When you start making a game, it always takes way longer than when you expect and is a lot difficult than what you initially imagine. And to make things worse, every time you scroll through social media, you see these beautiful, gorgeous projects from other devs, and it looks so effortless for them. And you start thinking stuff like, why does my game look like garbage in comparison? It's like everybody else a genius but me, what's going on? And you start wondering if maybe there's something wrong with you. And this kind of stuff gets in your head very easily, right? It's so easy to start thinking like this. So, how do you actually make a game that is as gorgeous as the one you see from other devs? So, when I started working in Silent Corruption back in 2017, I had no idea how to make games at all. I had zero skills or knowledge whatsoever of the things you needed to actually make a game. But I have this strong vision of the kind of game I wanted to make. In my case, I wanted to do something similar to Resident Evil or Silent Hill because those were horror games that I really love and I really enjoy. And the game idea I had for Silent Corruption was something similar to these classic survival horrors. So basically I had no skills but a really clear idea of what I wanted to do. But of course, that game idea I had, it was way too complex and big for my current skills since I just started to learn game dev. As I said, I had no idea how to do anything. I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how to do art. Like, I wanted to do a 3D games, but I didn't even know how 3D stuff was made. So eventually I realized that, okay, if I actually want to make a game, I first need to learn how to do all this stuff, right? Because otherwise I'm never going to be able to do anything. So I stopped working on Silent Corruption, and instead of trying to make that game, I took some time to build up my skills instead. So I started to watch a ton of tutorials and doing courses, and for years I was kind of stuck on tutorial hell because I was always thinking that I needed to learn a bit more about this or a bit more about that, and also it was kind of fun to learn about all these different things. So basically for a few years I was stuck on this learning and tutorials and courses and kind of like jumping from one project to another because I was thinking like, okay, maybe if I start a project that is simpler, it's going to be easier. But then it turned out that it was too difficult, so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna stop this project. Maybe I'm going to learn more how to do this sort of stuff, maybe how to do 3D better, do 3D characters better, or learn how to code better, and then I'll come back and make this game. And I repeated this cycle so many times, and basically I was stuck in that cycle and I was never making progress in any game or anything. So around 3-4 years ago, I was like, okay, this is getting a bit ridiculous because if I keep doing this, I'm never going to make progress in any game and I'm never going to achieve anything. And as fun as it is learning about game dev stuff and building up all these skills, if I don't apply it to something, what's the point? At the end of the day, I started this journey because I wanted to make a game and I wasn't making progress in any game. So what was I doing? So then I took game dev seriously and I started to build a portfolio of games, prototypes, and just simple stuff, and also build my CV so I could apply for jobs in the game industry. And eventually I landed a job in both Path of the Teal Lotus as a Unity programmer, and this job helped me so much to gain focus and learning all the steps that you need to do to actually release a commercial game, because I was in the development process since pretty much the beginning of the game until almost the end, so I could kind of see how a game goes from demo to actually being released. And that was an amazing experience for me because I learned so much and it really opened my eyes on all the things that you actually need to do to have a successful game. So when I finally finished a job at Bow, this is actually the moment where the game industry kind of started to collapse, and it was really difficult to get another job because there was so many layoffs and everything was going to shit basically. So I decided, you know what, instead of spending all this time trying to build a portfolio or trying to find a job that I don't even know if it's going to be stable, I'm just gonna try and go full-time game dev on my own and work on my own projects, on my own game. And I'm going to go to the very first game that started everything, which is Silent Corruption, and I'm going to work on this game and I'm going to release it. After all these years, I'm going to properly work on it. And here I am now. So basically, you need to be ready to play the long game, because for most developers, before you get to the point where you can actually work on your game, there's so many other things that need to fall into place. Not just like your skills, but also like your mentality, your environment. So it's not always about just making a game. Sometimes it also needs to be the right time. So if you're willing to put in all that time and effort that goes into getting to this point where you can work properly in your game, then game dev may be for you. And also, all these polished and beautiful games that you see on social media, they didn't get there overnight. It probably took many years until the developers were competent enough to release that sort of game. And you are never going to see, or very rarely you're going to see, the failures, the weird prototypes, and things that are never been released before you see this beautiful game. So that is something to also have in mind, that it's not rainbow and sunshine for every other developer but you. Everybody else struggles and everybody else has a long journey to get there. You can get to this point and actually spend a lot of months or even years making a game, and you actually manage to make a beautiful, fantastic game. And it's actually the kind of game that you would expect it to blow up when you publish it. But for a lot of developers, this doesn't happen. Even though they have a gorgeous game, it gets lost in the void with so many other good games. Maybe a few friends and family buy it, but that's about it. So what are you supposed to do? Is having a successful game just dumb luck, or what's going on here? So when Chris and Trevor started working on Path of the Teal Lotus, they basically had no idea what they were doing. This was their first game. But they were super passionate and they just wanted to do it anyway. Because Chris, the creative director, had a really strong vision of what he wanted to do, and he was dead set on bringing this game to life. And he spent a lot of time researching other games that were similar, any other game that could fit with his vision, and trying to figure out what went well for them, what was successful, what the things that didn't work. And basically he did a ton of research trying to understand what he needed to do. And yeah, the first years of working on Bow, just to do obtain, it was really difficult. They were actually living on their savings, because this was back then when COVID happened. So he had saved up some money to travel the world, but instead he used it to work on his game. And eventually they managed to make a demo, and it actually got quite a lot of attention in social media because the art style and the atmosphere was really good, and the players were resonating with it and they were liking it a lot. So when Chris and Trevor launched the Kickstarter campaign, they basically smashed the funding goal. It went way over than what they initially needed, which was amazing. I was actually one of the backers, and that was before I got higher. And once they got this money in, they started to expand the team, and also eventually they managed to get a contract with Humble Games, which also helped them a ton with marketing and other things like localization and porting to different consoles. And when they finally released the game, it was super successful, and it still is to this day. And I believe that they are this successful because they started working on both with the right mentality. Even though they didn't have skills to build the actual game, they realized that they weren't making just a game, they were also building a business. So that is one of the other things you need to have if you're planning to make a commercial game. You can't see it just as I'm working on a game. You need to see it as I'm building a business where my product is a game, which means that you also need to learn other things on top of the technical aspect that you need to know to build the actual game. So if you're willing to go this extra mile and learn all this other stuff that is not necessarily related to making the actual game, then game dev is for you. And the last thing you need to have, maybe you have a very good game, you're willing to go the extra mile to learn all the other things that you need to do in order to have a successful game and a successful business, but that may still be not enough, because even if you have a good game and you have all this knowledge, you can still burn out very quickly. So how do you avoid burning out and quitting working on your game before you start seeing real results? So, like I mentioned earlier, once I finished working in Bo, I went back to working on Silent Corruption, and I was really excited to finally have the chance to work on my project again. Because from the very beginning, my dream was to go full-time indie dev and just make a living this way. But the problem was that throughout all these years, I was thinking that to be a successful indie dev, I needed to have like a hit game and earn like a ton of money and basically have like big numbers. And if I didn't have that, I was basically not successful at all. So I was always really overwhelmed because I had no idea how to make this work. Even though I had learned all this stuff, I still had no idea how to have a hit game or go viral. Like, nothing that I was doing was really working. And after a few years of being overwhelmed because I wasn't able to make it, I realized that, okay, but what does actually make it means? What does it actually look like? I had never really thought about that. I was just kind of going in automatic, trying to do what everybody else was doing and what I was supposed to do to have a successful game. But I never really stopped to think what being successful meant for me, what it looked like. Because to be honest, I don't really need to earn a ton of money. I don't even care about having a viral game because I have a very simple life and I don't need to earn a ton of money to keep my lifestyle. So then I realized that all these massive goals that I had didn't really make sense for me. And once I had more clarity on what I actually needed to achieve and what I actually wanted, instead of chasing other people's definition of success, that's when my anxiety of being successful pretty much went away. So basically, the third thing you need to have is a clear vision of what success will mean to you. Because it's so easy to compare yourself with other people. I think that you have to achieve the same things that they have achieved. And it's absolutely not the case at all, because everybody have their own journey and their own path, and everybody's successes look very different. Even if we have things in common, obviously we all want to earn enough to keep going and to support our family and things like that. But the road to get there and the goals you set up for yourself can be very different, and that's perfectly fine, and it's actually how it works. But you never really see this. You only see the end product of other people's successes. So if you have a clear goal of what you want to achieve and a clear definition of what success means to you, then game dev can be for you. So to recap, the 3 things you need to have so game dev can be worth it for you is being able to play the long game, treating this as a business, not just a creative endeavor, and have a clear vision of what you want to achieve. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you're going to love this one over here, which is a step-by-step guide to know if your game idea will be actually good for players. Basically, how to do market research for your game. So yeah, see you there. Bye!